had found you. Wade in the waters, wade in the blessed song that made you. From the breath of your creation comes a joy that sets my spirit free. In the raptures of surrendering, I'm one with all that lives in me. This is my freedom dance of freedom. Yeah. The crosswinds blowing, carving the valley of my heart's dream. The shifting sand tide taught me the truth that made my soul scream. Hear the voices of my universe, a fountain flowing pure and free. And I reach to those who wish to hear, inviting you to dance with me. Join my freedom dance, dance for joy. My freedom dance, let your spirit soar. Join my freedom dance, dance for the light. My freedom dance, the joy take flight. Freedom dance, dance for the love. My freedom dance, let your spirit soar. Join my freedom dance, dance for joy. My freedom dance, gliding on the wind.
I'm just sharing the screen.
Must never end. In silent witness, I stand upon the rock of ages. Flowing pure and free, and I reach to those who reach to hear, inviting you to dance with me. Join my freedom dance, dance for joy. My freedom dance, let your spirit soar. Join my freedom dance, dance for life. My freedom dance, let your heart take flight. My freedom dance, dance for joy. My freedom dance, let your spirit soar. Join my freedom dance, dance for love. Oh, Gliding on the wind, love within will never end. Wow. I was like, what performance was that? But now I remember.
How long ago was that?
That might have been maybe a year and a half ago. That was Angelique Kidjo and Liz Wright, and we had been doing this thing called Sing the Truth, and I think that was our last Sing the Truth concert together.
Wow. How many times did that happen?
Well, it started out very early on. God, the years go by so quickly. I would say like 2010. And we went out and we did this whole thing in celebration of Nina Simone. And it was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And it was also Nina Simone's daughter, Lisa, was in it. And it was really, really wonderful. And then, we continued on and it was just the three of us. The second time that we did it, it was just celebrating the voices of women, writers, song stylists. It was very broad and it was really, really cool. And we also put our own material in. And then we didn't do it for a long time. And then about a year and a half ago, we did one last performance together. And that was it.
I don't know the other singer, but I know Liz, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, Angelique Kidjo is from Benin, who lives in France, and I mean she's actually huge.
yeah.
But she just did a record celebrating Celia Cruz that did very, very well. And before that, I mean, she does all kinds of really interesting music, and so it was these three distinct kind of voices and the way that we kind of deal with the music, and it always worked really nice. We had a good time on the road. And of
Wow.
course, that was Terry Lynn
Yeah.
Carrington on drums, and she was the musical director for the tours.
Oh, that's cool. Is
Mhm.
this something that we can see on YouTube, or
There are
you know,
some,
the early ones we could, because
yeah, there's some on your YouTube.
yeah.
There's one of us singing for women, and there's a lot of stuff out there because we did it at the Montreux Jazz Festival, and we toured all over
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah. Boy, that would have been great to see. And on guitar,
Hamero, my brother from another mother, Hamero Lubambo from Brazil, and so he did that last gig with us, and it was Manyongo Jackson,
yeah, he's fabulous.
and then James Genus on bass.
Nice, very nice. Wait, who was on a
I,
chord instrument or a piano? Was there a
I
piano?
yeah, there was, and I'm trying to think who it was. I don't remember.
Well, not like you
I had to
do
see. I
one
didn't
gig a
see.
year.
I didn't show a shot of the pianist, so
No, I know.
forgot who was on it because we worked with a lot of. One time we did it in. It was Jerry Allen played with us, and it was
Oh,
really wonderful.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, to go a little backwards, I mean, my guest does not need really any introduction. It's Dianne Reeves, and um, for me personally, to look at, and I've said this to you over the years when I bump into you, and you must get tired. You must think, oh my God, she's like an old aunt or something. But when you first came here to LA, you were like 20 or something,
Yep,
19,
at the
20,
comeback in.
come
Well,
back.
that wasn't first, but yes, I was about. It was in 19. I came in there like 77. I had been here a couple of times, and then I settled in 77. So like 21 or something like that. And
You were
you
great. You were a baby girl, man, and you were
yeah,
a great singer. And
thank
it was
you.
Billy Childs and Joey Heredia, my
Yes,
brother-in-law. And
yes.
was it Tony Dumas?
Yeah, that was who played with us first. And then, well, no, actually a little bit later. It was a few, but then it was Larry Klein, and
Oh,
then Billy Carroll was our final bass player in it.
right. Larry
Mm.
Klein was working as a bass player around here somewhere.
Yeah, and him and Billy were out with Freddie Hubbard at the time.
Oh.
So it was, yeah.
I still kind of have the picture of you guys performing it come back in my
I,
mind.
I actually have a picture of
Oh,
us
you do?
back in the day. Yeah,
Uh,
I sent it recently. Two of them. I sent it to Joe to see. But those were our formative years, and we
yeah.
had. I used to laugh at those times because we were so free and fearless, and just determined, and all we needed was gas in our car, and we could do anything.
You said, yeah, you said, well, I mean, that was for another reason, but you said when you lived in LA, it was like living in your car. But that's because
Yeah.
you had to drive everywhere.
Yeah, that was much later on, but early on, it was like, I just got to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, just overall, and again, I'm like an old aunt, but I'm so when I look at you and your career and the way you sang and the way I've always loved your writing, and I just see a beautiful like when I look at my nieces, I see a beautiful woman who has developed from a curious and creative young person and then grown into this beautiful womanly maturity and with experiences that you've just blossomed into and I feel proud of you. I can't help it.
Oh, thank you. But we go way, way back. So, that always feels good when you are with somebody that knows your history.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference in the world. And, I worked with your brother-in-law who I just told him, I said he was the blueprint for the drummers that I would, you know, pick along the way in my career because
Yeah.
he was just so you know, he just had this way of playing that almost like he could read your mind, and he listened so beautifully. And so it allowed us to have this really wonderful language, this intimate exchange that happened every night. And it allowed me to really grow.
Yeah. Yeah, and plus he was very rhythmic, which
Oh, yeah.
you loved, and kind of a freer player. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
You know what? Wait a minute. My plug came out, and I just realized I don't want to.
Yeah.
Let me just plug it. It's always something, isn't it?
By the way, I'll share some comments along the way, but there's
Okay. Now
you
we're
can
good.
you can check this afterwards, and because people are saying when they were fans and they
Hmm.
saw you in here and there, and somebody even said, was it John Cowherd on the piano?
You mean for the thing that they just saw? No.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So, people from Santa Barbara and
Yeah.
the
I
IE.
mean, we played all up and down the coast back in the day, but our mainstay, of course, as you know, was the comeback in.
Yeah. There are other places, but I was just talking with somebody yesterday about the comeback in. It was such a cool, it was such a cool hang, and I just found out why it actually got shut down. This is kind of
Oh.
funny in a way, but the liquor store next door thought that the comeback in was threatening to him, which was silly because they didn't sell alcohol. And so he was friends with the mayor, and he told the mayor that he should shut them down and put a parking lot in because Will, the owner, and his roommate were gay.
Yeah. What?
That's what the liquor store guy told the
And
mayor.
I don't, in that liquor store, I don't, because to the other side, okay, so the comeback in, the thing that I remember most is that Will was like very health conscious. And
Yeah,
so the food was like this, organic, vegan-esque
yeah,
food.
yeah.
And then next door was a straight up barbecue joint where I went. And it was like, and at that time, that street, you know, West Washington is what it was then, but now it's Admiralty or something.
Yeah,
They
yeah, they call it something
but it
else.
was West Washington Boulevard, and it was like it was not the safest street.
No.
And across the street, they had it was either, I think it was called the Tourist Tavern, and that's where all the blues and stuff
Uh,
was, and the bikers and stuff. So they would come over to our set, you know, when they, you know, the blues band would come and listen to us, and we go over there and listen to them. But you know, the music community is so I don't know, it's inviting to everybody. You play
yeah,
music, everybody, you know, want to hear what you have to say, and it has nothing to do with anything else but that they want to, you know, share in the music, and I
yeah,
love that.
yeah, me too. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Denver. I was born in Detroit, and I grew up right here in Denver.
Oh,
Yeah.
so I think Cheryl Barnes and maybe
Cheryl
even
Barnes was my one of my first vocal teachers.
oh my God.
Hmm. She
Wow.
was.
I don't think
And
I
I used to love to go over because I was like, she looked like somebody out of a movie, you know. She had this big, beautiful afro, and she was just, you know, and she was very patient and, you know, more than anything, you know, taught me how to really kind of believe in what it was that I was doing, you know, to really own
wow.
it, you know,
Yeah.
because she really was like that, you know, and still is. So yeah, for a short time we worked together.
Wow, isn't that interesting? Yeah, she's a very dear friend of mine, and I just think she's a fabulous singer.
I do too.
I don't know if you heard her last record, which came out a while ago, but took them like 5 years to complete, and it she sounds so beautiful on it. You should check
Oh,
it out if you haven't. It's
I have to check it out. I
really
haven't heard it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Been enjoying her, you know, quarantine concerts and, you know, so forth. But she's always been fabulous.
She's fabulous. She's such a great person, and her husband's cool too.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So, and then your cousin was George Duke. Is that
Yeah. Uh-huh. You
right?
know, I moved out here. I mean, I moved to LA because, well, he would come and visit George, and I thought LA was really cool. But the reason that I actually ended up coming to LA was because of Philip Bailey, Larry Dunn, and Andrew Woolfolk, who are the founding members of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Uh-huh.
You know, they're all from here. And it was at a time when Earth, Wind, and Fire, the band was reaching back to their beginnings and bringing people talent from their hometowns. And so Philip wanted to do a group that featured a female vocalist, and asked one of his good guy friends that, you know, anybody. And they called my mother, and he said, yeah, I know one, Dianne Reeves, you know. He called my mother and said, she'll be safe. And, you know, at that time I was working here at this club called the Warehouse. And it was with Gene Harris. He ended up living here in
Oh,
Denver for a minute. So I
yeah.
was working with him, and so I left and drove to LA in my Datsun Honeybee, which is what I drove, you know, had it for a long time. I drove it till you couldn't, you know. And, you know, that's how I ended up in LA. And then later on, I realized that a group thing wasn't what I wanted to do, and ended up meeting Billy. And Billy was trying to find me because Larry Dunn at the time was producing everybody, and he produced Caldera's record
Oh,
and asked me to, you know, be a part of it. And so that's how I ended up being on the LA scene.
wow, wow. My friend Joe Goldberger um, had performed Nine, and he said there's a great story behind it.
Oh, yeah, you know, when Eddie Del Barrio and I wrote that together, and I remember, you know, wanting to, basically it's about how I grew up here in Denver, Colorado, and how it was, you know, as a kid, that your whole neighborhood was kind of like this beautiful universe of people that watched out
after all the kids. And I mean, you couldn't get away with anything.
Yeah.
And we played in the streets, we played outside in the front in the streets. And that's when people used to sit out on their front porch, till
Yeah.
late in the evening, and we'd just be out there, and when the car would come by, we'd all move back, and then, and everybody knew to drive slow. And, we just had this incredible world of kids and community. And it's something that, really informed my life. And so I wrote 9 about that. Because it's the last time you're only one number. I always tell people. After that, it just keeps going up.
That song we heard coming in, was that your song?
Yeah, that was from the Art and Survival album that I did. Actually, Eddie produced that record too, and it was an album that I did that kind of came at a time in my life when I was just really trying to own and just really feel comfortable with myself, because it's funny in this industry, you have 2 identities, the person that's off stage and the one that's on stage. And a lot of times the person on stage gets way more attention, even from you, like you're always working on your music. And so sometimes there's, could be lack of growth in your personal life,
Yeah.
And so that was a record that for me, it was at a time in my life when, you're, looking at your life and taking stock, and, and I changed, and it really is, my, my story.
Oh, that's cool.
Mhm.
Well, you must have written that early on because I mean,
Yeah, this was in the mid 90s that we did this record. There's a whole lot of stuff on it. And it was really, really crazy because it was at a time when I was in a situation. I had been signed to Blue Note in 1987. And Blue Note was under I forgot how it went. They were under one side of the label, and because it was like Manhattan Blue Note. And then there was this big switch, and Blue Note moved over to the Capitol side, and I was still stuck on the other side because that was the umbrella that I had signed under.
uh,
And I wanted to leave because I wanted to be back on Blue Note.
yeah, I mean,
So
yeah, go ahead.
so I just did this record that I just, I knew that they were looking for something a little more pop oriented, and there was nothing pop oriented about this record. I mean, Kenny Kirkland was on this record. All kind of people were on this record, and it took us a long time to do it. But for me, it's called Art and Survival because that's what I was really doing, trying to hold on to my art and survive the record industry at the time. And because of the way that it was, and it was a really powerful record. I ended up back on Blue, which is where I wanted to be. There's a whole lot of stuff in there, but yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and it's just crazy how, you know, when you want to hold on to your voice in this industry, like I never, one of the reasons I loved being at Blue Notice because nobody ever told me what I had to do. You know what I mean? They didn't pick songs for me. They didn't, it was all about, you being you. And I think that was a thing that really attracted a lot of artists to the label.
yeah, yeah. Well, also, I mean, you have kind of a stamp in your writing lyrically, and it's usually about uh, hope and human traits that are,
Humanity.
yeah, that
Yeah.
that are good,
Yeah.
and future and strength and woman, and so I mean, I know a lot of people really appreciate that about your artistry.
And that was a good thing about working with George because he produced a lot of my records, and George Duke.
Yeah.
And I loved working with him, not just because he was family, because when I first moved to LA, he would always say, I'll produce your record. And I would be like, I don't think I'm grown enough yet. I don't really know what I want to do. So when I got the Blue Note contract, I thought, now it's time, you know. And
Yeah.
but the thing that I loved about working with him, he was selfless. George had he could play anything from classical music to the funkiest funk of funk, you know, just an amazing, impeccable musician.
Yeah.
And, but at the same time, he produced a lot of different kind of singers and instrumentalists. And he never put his sound on them. His whole thing was about, helping you to develop your sound. And so in working with him, that was the greatest thing that I walked away with, was to be able to, trust your instincts. Because he was all about, he'd say, okay, I know you want to do another vocal, but we're going to keep that one. And ultimately it would be the one that he kept, that would be the one, and he taught me how to hear myself, because we can be very self-critical,
Yeah.
and sometimes we might say something in a certain way that just really resonates and we don't even know it. But he helped me to recognize that.
Yeah, I actually remember there, like in those early comeback days, comeback in days, you had this thing that you were doing that was obviously not grooved in. It was a way of singing, of extra, something like, I can't really imitate it, but it was something like, ah, 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 ah. There was something that you were doing. And I don't know, but it eventually became your signature and it became smooth. And it was, yeah, it was one of your signature ways of singing. And so is an example of what you're talking about. You trust your instincts. I know I want to do that,
Mhm.
and I want to work on that. And you did, and it came through and it became beautiful.
Well, the good thing about that whole experience and sometimes Luis Conte would be, in the band with us
Yeah,
playing.
right, right.
Everybody would bring like this personality, this set of, these rhythmic, their own rhythmic library or harmonic library. And we would come together, and our whole thing was, how far can we go? And we don't need to come back, let's just keep going. And so you hear the music in a different way. And at the time, the kind of records that I was listening to, I remember, just loving Nana Vasconcelos and listening to Milton Nascimento. And I found out at that time, kind of like the places that they lived in, and, where they came from. And the music sounded like that. Like Milton, would put these very dissonant sounds against harmonies that were, like, what is that? And, I found out lived in an area that was heavily forested. And I guess that's what it would sound like, to hear the birds and the water and the rain and so, we were just trying for all kinds of things at that time.
Yeah. Let's see. You have so many things along the way that have been acknowledgments for you. Um, let's see. I kind of really I still would like to talk about you coming up. I guess after you got to LA and what
Mhm.
like when did it start? When did it start really snowballing for you with success?
Oh, well, when I first got to LA, because I had worked with Clark Terry, and I'd done a lot of stuff with his super bands. Louis Belson at the time was playing with the Tonight Show, and then also doing, gigs. So I started working with Louis Belson, and then doing studio work and stuff. And, my name started to get around LA. But the thing that I loved, I think, that one of the things I loved about being in LA is that, you could go to the Parisian Room, you could go to all of these different places, Jimmy Smith's Supper Club. You can go to all these places and see the people that you have records of,
Yeah, yeah,
and that, and just they the people that I had that I ended up working with, they were like, encouragers. They were like, do this, do that, just do it all,
Yeah.
And I think that once I did the first record, me and Billy produced the Welcome to My Love record. Prior to that, we had, Billy really wanted to meet Chick Corea. We met Chick Corea, and he had heard our version of My Funny Valentine. And I remember he and Gail used to have this party for Valentine's Day, and they invited us to come and play, And we walk up to the house, and there's like all these gnomes all over the front yard. I was like, okay, this is like. So we went in there, and he was just like he loved it. And so when he found out that we had decided to go to Mad Hatter to do the record, and he's like, oh, and he made the studio available for us and his engineer as well, and would come into the studio while we were recording. And that's when it just felt like things were getting ready to take off.
Yeah, that's so
Mhm.
cool. Do you remember which piano you used? There was a Steinway and a
Billy probably does because he
yeah,
used it. Yeah,
yeah. They
probably.
two
It was
gorgeous
this,
9 foot
yeah.
brands in there. Yeah. Um, let's see, and let's see. You have boy, you've gotten a National Endowment Award. You've got an honorary doctorate from Juilliard. Monterey made you a jazz legend. And also, what I was intrigued on your site was define your voice. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, that's with Open Studio, which is um, on a virtual school basically that my very good friend and my pianist Peter Martin started, and it's really really fun. And one of the things that I thought, I there's like vocal techniques and stuff like that, but one of the things that I felt that I wanted to really talk about and teach was that your instrument is one thing, your voice is something totally different. And while it is important to really refine and define the sound of your instrument, um, that would be so that the colors and the emotion and the intensity of which that you want to say a thing that comes from your voice, your spirit, your heart can be done. And that there's a like that in singing you can have all the chops you want to have, but you have to be able to connect and communicate. And so the whole thing that I did with Peter was basically on how to kind of get to that.
Cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, and guys, you can go on her site and see this, connect to it. It's yeah, pretty awesome. Um, oh boy, let's see. Oh, Patricia Thompson.
Because I just want to say to you, we, come from a generation of musicians and music where, especially living in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
there's like when you would walk into a studio, whatever kind of music they had to play, like it could be some Brazilian music, some Cuban music, some whatever.
Yeah.
The one thing that I love about the times that we grew up in is that, all the musicians would, with humility and but also with respect and love, be able to play all of this different music, and they would play it in a way where it was like it was respectful to the culture. At the same time, they would put their thing in it, and it was always really really, it wasn't something that they learned, it was something that they listened to, and it wasn't something learned in school. It was something that you listen to, and there's a part of it that you're hanging around all of these musicians, and they're telling you about their music, and you're listening to it, and then you come to the studio with your own ideas, but at the same time with respect to what it is that they want to play. And I love that whole thing about the 70s and the 80s living in Los Angeles, because everybody played everything.
That's
you
so
know
true. Yeah.
yeah
That is
you could
true. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And even singing, if you, because I would be in all kind of different kinds of bands and just sing in different kinds of ways. It was
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I totally agree with you. I mean, and uh, I mean, when I grew up, my dad was a sax player, and my
Hmm.
sisters and mother were musical. But um, well, first of all, when I would go to my dad's rehearsals, the musicians, yeah, of course, would flirt with me, because I was like 5 or something. And I just
Oh, yeah,
loved that. I
you're
thought,
right. All
oh,
that attention.
yeah, this is cool. And then as I grew older, I went to Berkeley, and just
Hmm.
as I grew older and got involved with the community, that's what I saw. I saw people jumping into the deep water all the time, and
Hmm.
having fun, humility, of course. I mean, the first group that my sister took me to see, not my dad, but was the Modern Jazz Quartet at the
Hmm.
Jazz Workshop, which was a very
Wow.
small
Yeah.
room. And I was sold. I absolutely flipped out. And I remember being also moved by George Shearing in kind of the same way. There was, as you say, I love the word humility, because that's what it was. It was this honor and humility and commitment to playing the music, and it was always about the music and
Hmm.
mankind. I mean, Billy Higgins gave me
Oh,
that
yeah.
feeling.
He was something.
Yeah, just like, come on into the fold.
Yeah.
Everybody, come on into
Yeah.
the fold. And there's an honor, like you say, that's a great way to learn about it, because you see these people, and you feel them and you see them and how they operate and what it feels like, and it's so valuable, so
Hmm.
valuable.
Yeah, and that makes for a great conversation on stage, because you know them and you know who they are and how they feel the music. And ultimately, because of that, you end up finding new places in yourself, with these kind of collaborations. And so that is the biggest thing that I think that's so important in music. And that's kind of like what the course talks about that, for the open studio. But that was, for me, that is everything.
Yeah, well, you're carrying it on really beautifully. um, I'm going to tell you just a few little comments, and Cheryl Barnes
Okay.
got on.
Oh, hey, Cheryl.
Let's see. Oh, Cheryl Benteen. She said the queen.
Oh,
She's calling
that's
you
my
the
girl.
queen. Let's see. Somebody said that you singing. Oh, Maria Jacobs. She said she's followed you for 30 years, and she says that your rendition of Chan's song got her through some very difficult times.
Oh, that's a beautiful song.
That is a
That
beautiful
is such a beautiful song.
song. Yeah, man. Woo! I love that. Also, let's see. Gary Meek, do you not remember him? He said you probably wouldn't remember, but he played in Oscar Castroneves' band at the Hollywood Bowl, and you sang a
Oh
song.
my God. Wow.
He's a great.
Probably if I see him,
Yeah,
but Oscar Castro Neves, what an incredible human being.
yeah,
Mhm. What an incredible man. I met him through Sergio, those years with Sergio.
yeah.
And well, the year and a half with Sergio, actually. Uh, but I met a lot of really, really great musicians. That was really cool because a lot of had a lot of friends in that band. John Pisano was in that band at the time, and
Yeah, the great John
uh,
Pisano.
John Beasley, but it was
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Learned a lot. Hmm.
yeah. Um, let's see, Chris Barbara, who's a wonderful person and a singer here. She said she's been involved with the Jazz Angel, which is works with young jazz musicians 9 through 17 years old. And
Hmm.
what is your feeling of where jazz is going in the future?
Yeah, people have been asking me that question my whole life. Well, one of the things is it's global now, and it's very interesting. And you never can say where jazz is going until you get in, until like you can see where it's been.
Yeah,
Because it's always evolving, always moving forward.
yeah,
Um, and it always reflects the generation that takes hold to it. So, given, what's happening, this is a new day. We're in the age of information, and, you know, all of these young people are out here right now in the streets making changes in ways that I could never even dreamed of making changes in the way that they're doing. So a lot of the music will reflect that, and so the music is ever evolving, and I can't say where it's going to go, what it's going to be, but I know it's in the hands of these very fearless young people who are determined to make the world the kind of world they want to live in.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Over the years when people have made comments to me about jazz being dead, and I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even get. I don't understand. I don't even get that. It's like jazz, out of all the music, is always changing. It's always
Yeah.
reflecting and changing,
Mhm.
and it's in the moment, and it's not dead. It's just it is. It's what it
And
is.
it's a music that celebrates one's individuality as well,
Yeah,
because that's important, that because nobody is like you. And it really demands that you be yourself.
absolutely.
You can listen to everybody, you can be informed by everybody, you can even stand in their shoes at one point. But the most important thing is that you find your own voice.
Yeah, yeah. We're so lucky.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's see. Can I ask about the song "I'm Okay" with Eddie Del
Oh,
Barrio?
Eddie Del Barrio. Well, Eddie actually wrote that song for me. And, Eddie and I worked together from the time that I met him with Caldera. And I would have to say that was around 77, 78
Yeah,
when I met Eddie. And we've been friends ever since. But we had, relationships, friendships kind of go through things. And I ended up moving away and going to New York. And I hadn't heard from him in a while. We hadn't really spoken. And it was during the time that I was working with Harry Belafonte. It was in the mid 80s. And we used to talk all the time. And so there was like a break in communication because I just was in the world now. And I remember he sent me the song, and I probably still have it on cassette somewhere. And he sang it on the cassette, and it has like all kind of crazy but beautiful changes, and is very, very rangy, and really at that time written specifically for me to sing. And so I loved it. And it was at the time when, people were looking at their lives, and, there was a lot of therapy on radio, and you could, it was kind of in to go and, look at your past life and, start trying to get yourself together. It was like the dawning of all of that kind of stuff, where it was like really open to everybody. And so that I'm all right, I'm okay, of course, was the book,
yeah.
but he did it in a way that he talked about, life and love, and that you can still move forward no matter what happens. You can still move forward and be good.
So he wrote the lyrics.
He wrote the lyric and sent it to you as a gift.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. Let's see. I think one of your dear friends, Jean Hubbard Boone, is on.
Hey, Jean, how you doing, girl? I'll call you later.
Let's see. Mickey Purnell, wonderful singer and very spiritually inclined. She said she noticed that you sing more spiritual and religious theme. Any thoughts, turning points?
That I sing more religious?
I don't hear you religious, but I do hear you spiritual.
Well, very spiritual.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's that's kind of always been a part of everything because I view the stage as a very, is my spiritual ground, you know. I view the stage as a place where I'm like total. I don't have any inhibitions, and I feel like some like things come through me in a way more than I do when I just walk around in my life. And so for me, I learned when I was working with Harry Belafonte how the importance and the power of words and energy and vibration, how they can shift things. So, you know, I think from that point, from when I worked with him, that's when everything started to shift because I wanted to, whatever it was that I sang on stage, I wanted it to be something that in some sort of way I believed in, or there was a story or some kind of emotional connection, context, whatever behind the songs that I sang.
Yeah, you know, that's interesting. You probably didn't come through what, like, someone like me came through. Like, I was working, uh, you know, lots of jazz standards for years and years and rock standards and all that. And then, you know, started writing with something like in 1980 and, you know,
Mhm,
so integrated the originals and this. You
mhm.
were kind of jumped, you weren't, didn't you kind of jump right into originals and then, but then,
Yeah, because that's what the band was about, you know.
yeah.
With Billy, you know, our whole thing was like either we take something that's been done and arrange it in a totally different way,
Mhm.
or we write our own stuff, or, you know, and so it was all about that exploration.
Yeah. But I mean, of course, still because you're human, you know, and everybody's human, you probably, you know, you grew in that space and then it was time to move into a new space with new
Absolutely.
limitations and stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because coming out of, you know, like when I was working with Billy and Joey and Billy Carroll, um, it was really interesting because the music was very complex and it was hard driving. And then, you know, I go out, I get this audition for Harry Belafonte, and it was like these songs were very, very simple, and they were, you know, but the lyrics sounded simple, but they had a dual meaning. And now I'm discovering other writers, like people like Joan Armatrading, and, you know, and 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 it's like this whole other world. And then the thing that Harry had us do, he put us in a workshop atmosphere for the arrangements of the songs. So he said, no one person will write the arrangements, you guys, because there were musicians from all over. So that part I understood. Um, but, you know, a whole different kind of vibe. And he say, you know, these are the songs you'll, you know, sing these songs and you'll come up with arrangements together. And that was really powerful to me. So
Yeah.
that has stuck with me. You know, we'll do sketches of things. Um, Billy will do full out arrangements, but still they leave a lot of room for interpretation and how to make it really, really feel like it's tailor made for me, or I'll do the same thing.
Yeah. Such a great way of operating.
Yeah.
What do you, are you working on stuff right now? I obviously we talked a little bit about how much you miss being out and performing and stuff, but
Yeah.
are you working on some
Well,
stuff?
actually, you know, I started going down this road again because you know, the music that has inspired me the most is the music of Brazil. And I think that every recording I have ever done has some aspect of Brazil on it somewhere. And so I said, you know, it's time for me to just do a Brazilian record. So that's what we had been working on prior to, you know, Corona. And slowly, you know, getting back to it because that was a jolt. And I have to say, I remember we were on our way to the airport when the cord was pulled, and you know, we were going to Europe for about 3 weeks, and two of my musicians were at the airport. I was on my way and we get the call. No, it's over. Stop. But then, okay, it's like, okay. And you start off, in the all of this, doing what they said, staying home, social distancing, and you looking at the news. I think I must have had coronavirus 18 times in a week because every time I would have a headache or a cough, I was like, I got it, And it was just like, okay, now calm down, come off the ceiling. And then, you join everybody else and watch the Tiger King. And then, and then then it started getting real, like, when are we going back out and what, you know? And then, it's just very lot of different phases in this shutdown of the world, a whole lot of phases. But now I'm back working on the project. And so when it will come out, I have no idea, but it'll be, we'll continue to work on it.
Yeah, yeah. Needless to say, it's a very interesting time.
It
Uh,
is.
let's see. Let's see. Oh, Zach Harmon is here. Do you know Zach? He lives,
Exactly. That sounds familiar.
he's a
Yeah.
drummer. He lives in
Yeah.
that area of the country.
Okay.
He said, I know I'm not alone in saying how much I loved your tribute to Abby Lincoln with Terry Lynn Carrington a few years
Oh,
back, and have a very special place in my heart for Bird Alone in your rendition. Thank you.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, that was a great tour. Terry was once again musical director, and it was Dee Dee Bridgewater at Esperanza Spalding and myself. And we did a series of concerts. And, it's funny. Some like Abby Lincoln and Nina Simone, they willed a kind of power in their spirit, I guess, that is in the music that just can really transform you. You want to really explore their universe, and it's endless. You can start with one song and just keep going down a rabbit hole in that one song. And so it was really, really nice. And I loved once again being in a situation where they didn't tell you what songs to choose, but that everybody came up with aspects of Abby or aspects of Nina Simone that really reflected who they were, because their voices were so broad.
Yeah, that is so cool. You're so right.
Joni Mitchell's the same way, of course,
Yeah,
but yeah.
and not particularly being a writer, but Betty Carter. You know,
Oh my God.
you know, but in fact, in January, I was at the Jazz Congress in New York, and they
Hmm.
had like a meeting of maybe 15 musicians who had been with her and telling stories. And man, she had some tough love going on. She was,
Oh, I could tell you, Betty was nobody like her, and will never be. She was truly an original. It was actually Joey who said, Diane, there's a singer down at Hop Sings. You got to come and see. I lived in Glendale at the time. I got in my little whip and went from Glendale to Lincoln. Like, what is it, in Culver City. And so I saw the end of the first set, and then after that, I came back every night, and I could, like, we were like transfixed. All of us, the whole band was there every night.
oh,
And I remember it was like a religious experience for me because it was like the universe cracked and I saw something that I recognized. And I'd never seen anybody stand in their band and co-create with musicians like that, because every night was different. And she had this amazing ability to play with time, like Shirley Horn, but different. And it would, she could just make you feel like you were just suspended.
yeah.
And I just remember she did The Man I Love. I was like, well, I know that song. So the next time we were at the come back in, I counted off The Man I Love real slow so that I could do it like Betty, like 1, 2, and they start playing. And shoot, the man I love could not find me. I could not find him. You know? But I was so inspired because she opened up this world of time for me, and that there's a lot to say in silence, and um, there's a and there's a way that you can phrase and say a thing that just like can be just so powerful. And so yeah, Betty Carter, as a matter of fact, Peter, my pianist, used to play with Betty. I used to tell Betty, I want all the musicians you trained. But I call her a living school, like Art Blakey, that
Yeah.
those were the living schools.
Yeah.
And that was during a time that you could actually attend a living school.
Yeah.
And I had the great pleasure with Clark, but that was really, that's where the greatest amount of my education came from, was those experiences.
Yeah. I saw her at McCabe's. Do you
Oh,
remember that?
McCabe and Blossom Dearie. Did you ever go hear her there?
Yeah.
Yes.
But Betty
Uh,
had Benny Green,
oh, okay. At the
and
time.
yeah, he was very young, and I was blown away. And at that concert, she sang flat the whole concert, and I was kind of blown away by that. Excuse me.
But
I
then
wish
it was like this, the way that she would slip into those tones, then I started listening to Indian music, and I would be like, she's like working on something. She's going to something else, because even though you would hear that, she would know exactly where this music, she
yeah,
would know where it was supposed to go.
yeah,
So it was really extraordinary.
yeah. It was purposeful.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember one of her last records. She's like, it's white, and she's standing there in a suit, like a pantsuit.
Hmm.
And so I loved the song. Um, this time,
Oh.
and then I went to see what I went to the music, the original music, to see.
Hmm.
It was written by Julie Stein.
Right.
It was so different. It was so totally
Yeah.
different. She did it as this slow bossa nova, and she was,
Hmm.
stretch. It was, yeah, that was.
And you said earlier that she was hard. Oh, when I did the Art and Survival record, I did this rendition of uh, uh, Body and Soul. And it's like really, but it was basically my whole thing around singing it is like that I was going to own the feelings that I felt. I was not going to, feel bad that I tried to love somebody that didn't love me back. I did it, and I'm gonna move on, but this is, I was gonna own it. And so to her, it sounded angry. So she called me up on the phone and she said, well, I can't even understand why you would sing Body and Soul that way. You shouldn't, and she just went in on me, and she, and I just listened to her. I said, well, Betty, I got my license from you. And she was like, what? you know I said, like, you take a song and you make it your own, and you will even change it and bend it and fold it, and do all kinds of things to it, and in the end it is what you want to say, and it's a powerful thing. I said, so that's where I got my license from. And then she's like, okay. I ended up doing an album that she produced, and not my album, but and so it was really amazing, because I ended up working on the record because she was producing it, and it was just working with her and seeing her, because Aura, who was the person that traveled with her at the time, Aura would tell me, she'd say, because anytime she came to LA, I was there. And she would look out and go, that girl's out there. Yeah. Yeah.
It's good stories. Um, let's see. Oh gosh, there's so many comments. Kevin O'Neill is
That
Huh?
was Javon Jackson's album that she
Oh,
produced. Yeah,
okay.
he's from Denver too.
Kevin O'Neill is a great bass player,
Yeah.
teacher, and you know him.
Hmm.
By the way, he's written some really incredible gospel music for his group that I sang with for a minute, and I just love the music. Anyway, he said our music is is used to bouncing off of each other in the moment. Ms. D, how are you interacting with this new generation of digital split screen or home recording?
I'm having a hard time, but you know, I figure the best thing I can do is just try to keep up with it, because I don't understand it in a way that the younger people understand it. You know, they can just. But I have enough young people around me that keep me in the know, and it's actually exciting. It's just another challenge, and I'm just figuring it out. I
Yeah.
wish there was a way though that, like we've done a lot of split screen type stuff where, you just keep sending it around. But I'll be glad when, you can really sync up the time and actually have a real live performance.
Yeah.
That would make a difference.
Yeah. I know. I'm still waiting for that one.
Yeah,
Um,
that's going to be a hard one.
um, Sean Potts would like to ask you about Strange Fruit with John Beasley and Nicholas Payton.
Yeah. That has been a song that has just unfortunately grown by the list of people whose names are mentioned in the song, sadly. And it started off with I was going down to Atlanta to do this big concert called Sankofa, which was headed by Harry Belafonte. And Harry called me and asked me, would I do the song? And I said, yeah. So John and I got together, and I said, okay, I want to make this in a way that we really talk about what is happening in the streets with these, the police brutality and the murders of all of these people. And so we started off, this was 3 years ago. We started off with the names, and then fast forward, we had put it out way back in the day with Anthony Santagati, who did the video for it. And I love the way that he did it, because you don't see their faces, you see their names and the places. And because you don't need to keep seeing, like I wish they would, that keeps showing George Floyd, and that just is in your mind, in your heart. And I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see the good work that his life has brought to the world, the light that is brought to the world. But anyway, so when this happened with George Floyd, we thought maybe this would be a time to put it back out again. And John sent it to, we added George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and so then John sent it to to Nicholas to see if he would just like put it on the, just put it up. And Nicholas went and just played on it. And next thing I knew, there's this trumpet on it that I was like, I didn't even know that was going to happen. And it's powerful. And so that's kind of like how this kind of continued, because people are so moved by the times, and you know desire to really really make a contribution of their voices and their feelings. So now it's getting ready to come back out again.
Wow.
And that song that's a hard song. That's a hard song.
Yeah.
It was I read this article in Political called "The Hunting of Billie Holiday," and because she wouldn't stop singing that song, she died. You know, um, actually because of Strange Fruit.
Huh.
It's a very powerful article.
I have
And she was hunted. She truly was hunted.
It's terrible. I have this short article that I've had up on my bulletin board in my music room for years, and
Hmm.
it was written about the very first time that Strange Fruit was performed by Billy,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it was in an auditorium.
Hmm.
And he said after the song, there was a strange sound, and he didn't quite get what it was at first, and then he realized it was the sound of everyone in the auditorium sighing.
Oh,
It was like, oh my God, that yeah, talk about a powerful. Oh
yeah.
yeah, that's
And she was asked to stop singing it. And the more she was asked to stop, the more she sang it.
yeah,
Oof.
heavy
That's
duty,
why.
man,
Yeah.
heavy duty. Um, I'm going to jump away from people's questions for a minute because I just wanted to briefly talk about you were in a movie.
Oh,
You were in more than one movie, but you were in that movie as the
right.
singer, and it was so cool to
It
see.
was. It
What movie?
really, really was.
What was that called?
A good night and good luck. And it's, the funny thing about it, it was about the McCarthy era. And
Yeah.
the very first movie that I ever did, now I can't think of the name of it, with Robert De Niro, it was about the same thing.
Oh,
And on that film, I had the opportunity to work with Jimmy Rolls.
oh,
You know,
yeah.
we did Easy Come, Easy Go, and but no, working with on Good Night and Good Luck was pretty extraordinary because they had one of those ASCAP shows that they would give at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion.
Yeah.
I did that, and my roommate at that time in my dressing room, I shared a dressing room with Rosemary Clooney,
Oh.
and we sat in the dressing room and cut up. I mean, they had to like call us and say, "You're next," because we were just having so much fun, laughing and talking, and then it was like it's funny how that can happen, and then you never like see each other again. But I asked George, I said, why did you select me for the movie? He said, "Oh, my Aunt Rosemary loved you," and I was like, "Wow." Just from you just never know, but yeah, I loved it. He selected all the music for that movie,
Oh,
and it was like I kind of played like the Greek chorus of the film,
yeah.
and I loved it because it was music. My role was just jazz singer, but there was so much music and so much to pull from that era, and going back and listening to Sarah Vaughan and Carmen McRae and uh, 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 all the singers, and in from that era and how they sang and wanting to, you know, be able to sing with respect to the era and not do, some 2005 run on a song.
Yeah.
So that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
You did a great job at that too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And he had us do it. The music was live in the film, which was really cool.
Oh.
I was ready to learn how I was like, I'm not good at lip syncing myself. And he's like, it's not going to be like that. You're going to deliver your lines just like the other actors. I was
Oh,
like,
cool.
Wow.
That's
So the
great.
first song is a Dinah Washington tune. TV is the thing this year.
Oh man. Yeah, that's great. Let's see. What are some Brazilian recordings that have inspired you lately?
Oh, lately. Well, let me think. I love the guitarist Chico Pinheiro.
Yeah.
I think he is just really, really, really fabulous. But it's funny because I realized that I started listening to Brazilian records from like the 70s, like the music that came out in the late 60s and the 70s,
Yeah.
but never knew like some of the stuff that came before.
Yeah.
And so you know, in the process of working on this record, I just kind of been going that way. And I discovered Peace and Guinea, and I just am just like so blown away by his music. And so been learning Rosa in Portuguese, and Patsy Moore also wrote an English lyric for Rosa. That is, it's so beautiful. So I want to be able to cut both of those songs. So right now I've just been really listening to the music before the music that I was introduced to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yesterday I was talking with Greg Carucas, and he's had a love affair with Brazilian music for years and years and years and years.
Mhm.
And he was mentioning all these great names, and
Mhm.
if anyone wants to hear a lot of cool names to check into, you should go to the archives and listen to him to speak. Um, yeah, and he had a long working relationship with Dori Caymmi,
Yeah,
and he also worked
me
with,
too.
yeah. Did you work with him too?
Oh God, yes, yeah.
Oh,
Because on
cool.
the when we did the calling, that, you know, obsession is his song with Amazonia at the end, but
Yeah.
we didn't sing Amazonia. But um, Dory is a character, and Dory is brilliant. So I would do his music and his father's music. Dory Val.
Oh,
Hmm.
beautiful. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, let's see what else. You know, everybody's very excited that you're here, and they're saying
Oh,
wonderful things. And like I said,
oh,
you can go back and look. There's probably
okay.
some people saying things. Who is your favorite Brazilian singer?
Ooh. I like, well, I have many. Of course, I love Elise Regina, is like
Yes,
hands down.
yes, of course.
But I'm also a fan of Virginia Rodriguez because she's like from Bahia, and I love the smoothness and her her sound sounds like honey dripping. And then of course I'm a very big fan of Milton's voice, Milton
Oh,
Nascimento's
yeah,
voice.
yeah. Milton
Yeah,
Nascimento.
he changed, that voice changed my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you happen to ever see?
Mhm.
Remember when Saturday Night, what was it called? Saturday Night Jazz or something with David Sanborn used to be on?
Yeah, I did one of those.
Oh, you did? Oh man, what a
Hmm.
great show.
With David Peaston. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the first show, my husband at the time and I wept through the show. It was Milton and and um and oh my God, his name just popped out of my head. James Taylor.
Oh wow, I could see that.
And they sang together.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we were weeping, weeping. Oh,
Yeah.
it was incredible.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, but Milton is such an incredible. Actually, Greg was saying that he has everything that Milton has ever recorded. He was obsessed with Milton for a while.
Yeah, me too. I go down a Milton rabbit hole, and just like I'm like, man, you know, it's like, oh, she's listening to Milton today because it's loud.
It's cool, isn't it? How it whatever you're listening to a lot filters into
Hmm.
what you're singing or writing.
Yeah.
Do you how many songs have you written? A lot, right?
Yeah, I don't know how many, but a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you write consistently, or do you find like there's times, big periods of
You know, writing is very hard for me. I'll most of the times I'll come up with a, a lyric idea. Sometimes I'll come up with a melody, but lyrics will start to come first. But then there's an interesting thing that happens. Like I'll know what it is that I want to say, and oh, my light just fell.
oh,
I'll know what it is that I want to say, but I also oh, let me do this. Sorry, y'all.
that's okay.
Thank you. Oh, I have someone helping me. The thing came off too. I don't know if it broke, but I'll know what it is I want to say, and sometimes I like write like I have thousands of things and they're just not it. And so the battle that I have to go through to really get to the exact thing that I need to and want to say is that's what makes it really difficult for me. It's not doesn't come easy. And then sometimes it just comes,
Yeah. I
you
know
know.
writing is a very interesting
Yeah.
thing. I
Because you can,
I
yeah.
I try and of course we all do. We try and reach the magic, right? You know when it's right, when every word and
It's
thought
just
is,
perfect. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a beautiful thing. But then there's other times when, oh God, I can write
Right.
two verses.
But what I do is I'll put it away, you know.
Yeah,
Watch is interesting. I watched Esperanza build that album that she did in 77 hours.
yeah.
That she did that whole project in 77 hours. And, so she was showing how, you can just be in the moment and create something really extraordinary. And she had this big, giant piece of paper on the wall. And she would come up with a lyric idea and then she would go write it in a corner somewhere. And then, she'd go back to the music and then come up with something else and write it over on the other side. And like the first thing that she wrote necessarily go with the other thing, but she had this way of connecting all of these ideas. In other words, she did not throw away a single thing. So what I found that really helps. I was like, you know what? I come up with, I'm just gonna write this line and it's gonna help for later on, because it was inspired. So I'm just gonna put it down. It may not be anything right now, but later on. And so I have books of stuff like that. And I can go back through them and go, I'm doing this is the perfect thing, to go right here. Yeah.
I'm taking a writing class right now from Mark Winkler, who's a really great,
Oh, I love Mark.
yeah, and he's a
Tell
great.
him I said hi.
I
Yeah.
will, and it's
We
just,
work together.
oh, it's great, and but I have this, I have some of, well, actually, I've written the songs after I've talked with him. Like,
Mhm,
I woke up one morning and I got up early. My husband was asleep. I went to the piano. I wrote a whole song, music, chords, and lyrics. And
mhm,
I tweaked a few of the lyrics, but I basically wrote it from being inspired by him. But there's
mhm.
this rebellious part of me too that sometimes like I'll send something to him and he'll go, well, you should blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, nope. I
Yeah.
have to change that. So it's
Right.
there's somewhere I do believe in, as he says, rewriting,
Yeah. I
but
mean, sometimes you just write it and then you go back and really try to shape it nicely,
yeah.
but a lot of young people right now, they write exactly what they feel and think. And I love that because, it is what it's supposed to be, how you want to say it, like you want to say it, it'll be a whole sentence that you would think, gosh, I wouldn't have thought about singing it like that, but that's really powerful. And the same thing, like when you listen to, like Stevie, the emphasis, the way that he'll put a word in a song, he'll fit it in there, and you'll be like, what? I just love the way he writes,
Yeah, the perfect word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So you just say what it is that you got to say.
yeah, there's well, first of all, that brought to mind somebody I found this year who's like written his songs have been on 35 million recordings. Seriously.
Wow.
His name is Mark Jordan. Do you know? Are you familiar?
No, I don't know.
MARC, Mark Jordan. He's
Okay.
Canadian, and he's written for everybody from the Manhattan Transfer
Wow.
to heavy rock and roll people, which is why And Diane, he's the greatest singer too. And
Wow.
the thing
Some
is,
people just got it like that.
oh my God, and but it's the singing too, because I remember hearing Anthony Wilson's song like about a month or two ago, and
Uh-huh.
he was writing. He literally wrote something like, "I'm sitting here on the couch,
Uh-huh.
COVID's happening or whatever," and taking the words by themselves, I might not have written that, but to hear him sing it with the music, and it was perfect. It was
Right.
great, like you said,
Right.
he was singing what he felt, and
Right.
it was the truth, and so that. I think that's part of writing, and also, the actual performing of your own music too. I think,
Yeah,
you know, that's a really great thing too.
I think so. I wanted to ask you something. I'm going to go back a little bit because I went to the UC Santa Barbara base, and that's about, uh, how do you say, Angelina Garcia,
Yeah.
Joey's mother.
Yes.
She needs to be resurrected. Her spirit, I knew her back in the day, but I did not know that she sang then. I
Yeah.
mean, Joey would say that she sang, but I didn't know that. I didn't know who she was, and she would come to my concerts, and she was so sweet and just and to be such an incredible performer and to like really be the reason why a certain kind of music is. Um, I was telling Joe, I was like, you need to go and talk about your mama because she was powerful.
She was
So did you know? Did she talk to you about her singing?
yeah, oh yeah, she did. So for those of you listening, that was my mother-in-law from my first marriage. And Joey Heredia, the drummer who worked with Diane, was her son, and my husband was his half brother.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I always would try and get her to sing more, but
Mm-hmm.
she didn't, because she felt like she was older and she had been sick on and off. But she was actually the one who taught me Sabora Me.
Oh,
And so she was, she taught me a few songs.
uh-huh.
But most of the history I think I got of her was from online. I mean, she had some old promotional pictures, which I have in the other room, which are,
Right.
she was gorgeous.
Was she, I was like, man,
Oh yeah,
but I understand that they have her archives,
they do. They do.
and it's like, I was like, this, she,
Bolero singer.
yes,
There were
boleros.
there were different styles, the
Mm-hmm.
rancheras and the bolero. She was the bolero,
Mm-hmm.
real beautiful. And she
Yeah.
started when she was 14.
Just extraordinary. And they have just a couple of her things
Yeah.
on online, but it's like I can't believe that we used to sit and talk, and she's just so, like just
She was really
quiet, kind
sweet.
of just sweet. And I never and like looking at this, I'm like, this was the woman. I remember when I did my first, because she was like there for me, always come back in, or Joey would bring her. So I told her I was singing with Harry Belafonte at the Hollywood Bowl. That was our opening first concert, my first concert with him. And I asked her, did she want to come? And so she was like, yeah. And I had a friend that had a really great hookup. I said, okay, I'm sending you a car. And I sent her a limousine. And she came and hung out at my
Oh,
concert.
oh
That
my
was
God.
like everything.
Oh God.
But to think that even then, I did not even know. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I
I
mean,
hate that.
yeah, if she hadn't, you can hear her on YouTube. Just
Yeah.
quite beautiful. And my husband's father was Gonzalo Curiel, who
Hmm.
was such a famous arranger and writer that Mexico actually dedicates a day of the year to him.
Wow.
And he wrote with Hammerstein, actually, because that was the whole period,
I've seen that name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful songs. And
Okay.
um, anyway, she went on the road with him,
Wow.
and then
Small world.
yeah, the little Gus was born, But
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, so but she loved music.
Hmm.
Even though she wasn't still singing and probably talking about her past, she would talk. I remember my mother asking her a lot about it, because my mother
Hmm.
was, kind of thrilled and impressed with a
Hmm.
career like that. And she and my mother would talk about that stuff, about the past. But
Yeah.
she was known as the Angel of Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah. That's sweet. I'm so glad you told me that story.
Yeah.
And that'll really stay with me. That's very nice. Yeah. Um, let's see. Da, da, da. Cecily Gardner said she remembers singing in a chorus in a studio for a tune you recorded in LA many years ago. She couldn't remember the name of the tune, but she remembered the session. Was it maybe Better Days?
May have been, I don't know why. To ask, does she know who the conductor was? Was it Diane Louis? Did Diane Louis conduct it?
Okay, Cecily, you have the question, so we're waiting for your answer. Let's see. Going on.
Well, it could have been Better Day. I don't think it was Better Days, but it might have been Anthem on the Art and Survival album.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I want to. Could we hear a little bit of something?
sure.
What could we hear a little bit about? Let's
Oh,
see.
you want me to play it? I don't
No,
know how to do that.
I'll go on YouTube, but I want to hear a little bit.
Okay, let me just look up something.
Yeah. Oh, Scott Yan. Well, Dory Green is married to Scott Yanow. Do you remember him? He's a reviewer, and
Uh-huh.
he said one of the greatest performances he ever saw was you with "Sing Sing Sing" with Bobby McFerrin,
Oh
James
yeah.
Cole, and John Hendricks.
Yeah.
Wow! Holy
That was
moly!
yeah. That was fun. At that time, it's funny. I remember that and let me tell you a little story. So, we did it again up at the Great American Music Hall. And I remember that everybody was asking me, do you think, and I said, oh, my mother's coming with me. And they said, oh, that's fantastic. So they said, do you think your mother would sing? And I was like, but my mother would do anything. And I was like, sure, but I couldn't. I was like, is this a thing where we're bringing our mothers up to sing? I was like, okay. So then they said, oh, like, we're so excited. What does she want to sing? I said, well, she likes the blues a lot. And I said, you know, I don't know, I gave him a key that I thought she could sing in because I'd never heard my mother sing like by herself, just with the record. And so it turns out that they thought my mother was Martha Reeves. And then they said, your mother's not Martha Reeves? And I was like, no. But my mother still wants to sing. I messed with them after that. That was so funny. Oh my God. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Working with them, there's so many great, 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 great vocalists, and
Yeah.
everybody is different. And it's really nice, to come together and, create something, I really like that.
Yeah. Cecily said yes, Diane Louis.
Yep, that was Anthem. And I don't know because I barbecued chicken for the session. And yeah, and
Yeah,
we had, and that song still kind of gets me through how you guys sang on that song still to this day wears me out and it like keeps me moving forward.
oh,
Hmm.
how nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Um, yeah. Should we hear Chan's song or
Oh,
something?
that sounds good.
Okay. Let me see. Let's go to YouTube and find
Let's see.
YouTube. And then find
I would have had some ideas for you.
That's okay. I love Chan's song. One says Chan's song never said.
That's the one because Stevie wrote the lyrics and it's called Never Said. Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Hold on one second.
What if when you got sick, you didn't have
Trying to skip the ads. Okay. And
I hate that.
I do too. Okay, so this is a recording, right? This is not a live performance.
Maybe not. I don't know.
That's okay. We'll listen.
Then I have to tell you about the video when we get finished with this.
Never said, never heard, though with me, every word lives out, filled with love for you. Never felt, seldom seen, for somewhere in a dream you have heard whispers of I love you. Keeper of my only love, time that I belong. Keeper of my only love, tied to you, I'm strong. Never touched, barely read, though so much has been said. Give the smiles that I give to you. Always knew, never wrong, living deep in my soul. All the love ever burning for you, my dear. Keeper of my only love, time that I belong. Keeper of my sacred love, tied to you, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So my only love, time
Oh, that brings back all kind of memories. There were so many people on that record. That was like the first one for Blue Note. And I remember at the time there was that film that came out that had Chan Song with Dexter Gordon. Remember?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what was the name of the film?
Wasn't it about Dexter, that film?
Yes, it was the movie Round Midnight or
Yeah,
something. No, was it? No.
yeah.
Yeah, around midnight anyway. And so Herbie had written that song for the film, and Bobby McFerrin did it, but as a vocalese. So then Bruce Lundvall was like, "You should record it," and then Stevie wanted to write these lyrics, and I remember the lyrics they brought the lyrics to the studio right like when we were there. He had just like finished them. So anyway, we do the song and it's like, I just absolutely love this, adore this song. So I had a friend said, we should do a video on this film, on this song. And so we did, and we got Herbie to play my love interest. And
Oh, cool.
Larry Dunn was in it, and he was the guy that I was leaving for Herbie. And the limo driver was Stevie. It was the most incredible thing. We had so much fun. Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah.
Lots of people are giving you kudos for that.
Thank you.
That was a long time ago, right?
Yeah, that was 1987. That was like
That
the
song.
yeah, that was a Dianne Reeves album. That was the debut on Blue Note.
Wow.
Yeah.
I saw you once in at what's the name of that place in Hollywood? It's the place that rents a SIR.
Yeah.
I saw you once there, and you did.
A
Was
live record.
Yeah? Did you used to do Riverman or one of those type of songs?
I used to do River, but no, that was not. I think I did River on that record because it was a live version of the Bridges album. So I used to do a
Oh yeah, you did Bridges.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah, I
yeah,
remember that.
yeah.
That was a good concert.
Thank you.
This person, Jetro Silva, is like he
Hey
loves you.
Jetro, as in it, he's like helping me get through my Brazilian.
Oh,
Yeah, how you doing? It's been a long time. Haven't talked to him in some time. You have my number, so we need to connect. But he's like such a brilliant, 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 brilliant musician who just has so much history about the music of Brazil. Actually, you should interview him because he's
yeah.
extraordinary, absolutely
I'm
wonderful.
writing your name down. Yeah, he said his child and he were just listening, and he was crying, and he said this album
Oh,
changed my life.
oh,
Oh, um,
hope you're doing well. I don't see the comments, so
yeah.
like
Like I said,
thanks.
you can look afterwards, and he said
Yeah,
he loves you, and he's in
yeah.
tears.
Same number.
Uh, um, let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Yeah, that just interesting. The honorary doctorate from
Uh-huh.
Juilliard.
And from Berkeley. I have one from
Oh,
Berkeley.
cool.
Yeah, from your alma mater. Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't actually get to go to school, right? Because you were performing all the time.
I went to the University of Colorado.
Okay.
And then I actually do remember the what is his name? Oh God. The Fowler brothers. Remember the Fowler brothers? Their
Absolutely.
father was my teacher, William
Oh,
Fowler, Dr. William Fowler. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. What a history they have, huh?
Oh my God. To see, I was like, I would see them on George's records, especially the record that George did, I Love the Blues, She Heard My Cry. They're on there too. And it was like, what a small world this is. But Dr. Fowler, I'm sorry that I got out of touch with him, but he was an extraordinary human being. And I remember when I was at the University of Colorado, I went there. I went there only for a year, and a lot of things were starting to happen for me, and I left. But before I left, when I was trying to make a decision, I went and talked to him about it. And he said, well, you know, as dean of the program, I can't tell you to leave school. And then he started telling me, remember this book about something about it was about a motorcycle, but it was like the art of, it was an, do you know what I'm talking
Like
about?
the
It was like
Zen or
this,
something.
somebody might, something like, yeah, something like really, really heady, but it's about the motorcycle,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like looking at him. I don't know what the hell he's talking about, just like I don't know what I'm talking about now. And so I was like, okay, I get it. You know, follow your heart.
yeah.
But we stayed in contact for a little bit. And then I went out and I ended up going to Dick Grove. And I mean, to
Oh,
get all the things that I needed, you know, to
yeah,
function, I just figured it out and
yeah,
went privately. And, you know, like I said, I was in the living schools too.
yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. H.B. Barnum said that. So he was in L.A.
Mhm.
and uh, he had started college, and I forgot what college it was, but he and his friend were really screw ups. they didn't they just didn't do the work,
Mhm.
and so his teacher, who he just he said, I'll love him forever. He said he said to them, look, if you stay in school, you're going to fail, and
Mhm.
if you drop out, you'll just get something no show or something. So he actually um, suggested that they drop out. So he and Les McCann dropped out.
Oh, and I know less. I understand that.
Yeah.
I was just listening to compare to what the other night, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great song. I recorded
Yeah.
that on this record I did called the Jazz Chamber, and I had Tierney Sutton join me, and we
Oh,
had, and we also merged a song that's been on my book for years of Les McCann's called "Universal Prisoner."
okay. Yeah.
He didn't
And there
write
was
it, but he performed it on
he
one of his
performed it.
early
Okay.
records.
There was a song on the Layers album that he did with that was called When It's Over, It's Over.
Huh.
Oh my God, that he used to sing that song. And I remember when I met him, I told him that was my favorite song. And he, you know, he was just a really great uh, person. I don't hear much from him now. I don't know who does, but
Yeah, I
no,
don't think he was.
always giving 100% and then some on stage.
Yeah, really great person, great, incredible artist, and just
Yeah,
I mean, who didn't have the Eddie um, Eddie
Eddie Harris.
Eddie Harris and Les
Mhm.
McCann version
Yeah,
of compared to
for
what,
what? Right,
and the other song that was on that live at Montreux record that
right,
blew my mind when I heard that in college. I couldn't stop playing that. I was
right.
so totally into it. Eddie Harris. Yeah, did you ever hear that the song "Do Like Eddie" on Schofield's record?
Oh no, I don't think I have to go listen to that. Do you
It's so,
like Eddie?
oh my God, it's so groovy. It's on his Groove record,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
probably have, and I don't remember, but I'll check it out.
And Eddie was playing, and Eddie took the best solo. Oh my God.
Eddie Harris.
There's so many things to
So,
listen to and wonder,
yeah,
oh,
there's so much rich music, you know,
yeah,
just rich.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'm just, that was the thing that I loved about being in LA. I mean, um, there were a lot of places, to go and do gigs, which was great, and but more than anything, there were a lot of places to go and actually hear the people,
yeah.
that was something. I lived at the Parisian Room.
Oh yeah, I saw Carmen there.
Yep, I've seen Carmen. I saw big Joe Turner there, Joe Turner.
Wow.
And I remember I had a bad relationship and I broke up with this guy, and a friend of mine says, well, we're gonna go see Joe Turner. And I sat in the front row and cried like a baby. He said he was sitting there
Yeah.
playing, and he's like, somebody give that girl a drink. I mean, I was just like,
Oh.
he's like, somebody give that girl a drink.
That's funny. That was a great club. That like
It
just a
was.
great size, and the bandstand was just like part of the audience. And
Hmm.
yeah, that was a really, really nice club. When I saw Carmen, that was one of the nights she kicked the piano player off the bench and played.
And play. I seen her do that more than one time, you know.
How humiliating if you're the piano player, right?
Right,
Jeez.
right. But she just had a way about her. She she's I love to hear Carmen sing because nobody, to me, her arrangements and her the way that she can interpret a lyric is just, you
Her
know,
phrasing.
yeah.
I always, so I've held vocal workshops at my house for 20 years, lots,
Oh,
hundreds of people come through and teach.
uh-huh.
And most people will say at some point, don't interrupt the sentence, say the whole sentence, right? And Carmen interrupted all the time, but the thing was, she was so committed and connected to what she was saying. She could stop on a word that normally you wouldn't hear singers stop on, and you were right there with her, you
Well,
know?
the thing is, one of the things that I learned from her was that say it the way you want to, that way that you would say it. And a
Yeah.
lot of times when I'm working with vocalists, I'll like tell them, look, okay, throw away the music, throw away the time signature, everything. And all I want you to do is stand here and say the lyric to me. And I said, and add words like if you are singing, you know, someday he'll come along, the man I love, you might want to say, someday he will come along because, I really love this guy. He's a the man I love. I said, so in that little space where you have all of that emotion and you veer away from the lyric when you're speaking it, that's the place where to stop and then say, the man I love, and let us feel that place in the middle. Because I don't think that, like, there's any one way to be able to phrase. I think that you have to say it in the way that you would actually say it, and you find your own rhythm, your own way of saying things. And I love working with students on that
Yeah.
because then they find something in themselves and it's like, oh yeah, I would feel it like that, you
Yeah.
know.
Do you teach regularly?
I used to, but I think I'm gonna, like, I was talking to Peter today. I really want to take on some students through Open Studio, and because I have time and I really enjoy it. So I think I'm gonna start. We're trying to work it out, and we'll definitely announce it when it happens.
Cool. Yeah, I noticed Chick Corea's really been getting into that lately.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, the
I've
Chick
been getting
Corea.
into his. I love it.
Okay. Yeah, and he started the Chick Corea Academy, which is
Right.
awesome. It's wonderful. He's such a real and human person. He's just
Yes.
great. He's a great person.
Right.
Okay, art, the Zen and the art of motorcycle.
Motorcycle. That's it. That's the book he referenced. Thank you. I knew somebody would know that. Yes. And he was like telling me about it, and I'm like looking at him like, what the hell is he talking about? But okay, follow your heart. That's what I got.
Oh gosh. Let's see. I've read that you find Cannonball Adderley's playing cinematic. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, Cannonball had this, he had this huge, huge sound. And but um like for instance, Country Preacher, which is a song that I actually recorded.
Uh-huh.
Um, when you hear him play that song, you hear the people gathering. That's why I could easily write the lyrics to it, because when I would listen to him play that song, I could hear him telling the story of, you know, um, these people coming together, after, their hard work through the week, and they come on Sunday, with their Sunday go to meeting clothes, getting ready to go praise the Lord and release all the stuff that they went through. And so you could just hear it in his music. And a lot of his music was like that. That's why I loved him with Nancy Wilson, because just really, really understood, you could just hear the stories in the way that he played. So I hope that's kind of clear enough. And you go back and listen to some of that stuff, I would get pictures and like, oh, this is what he's talking about.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
Cannonball. I once had a friend who was an alto player, great alto player, said he was in love with Cannonball, and he said, at one point I wondered why Cannonball didn't make mistakes, and so I went back to listen, and then I realized, oh, he's always making mistakes, but
Hmm.
he's always fixing them.
Well, George, I remember one time George did this clinic and he talked about Cannonball and he was like, if you hit a wrong note, the right note is only a half step away, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
And so, and he always talked about that those mistakes, create other ways of seeing, other possibilities and other ways of seeing a thing.
yeah,
And so there really are no mistakes. Just do what you do.
yeah. There's so many great little stories about all that
Hmm.
stuff, right? Um, Monica would like to know when you're touring, how do you manage self-care so you can stay, healthy emotionally and vocally strong?
Well, first of all, I travel with really great group of people, which I love, and that makes a difference because everybody kind of has the same kind of rhythm. So it's not crazy.
Yeah,
And I believe in, trying to create the most peaceful existence that you possibly can around you because that will affect your voice. And I also believe that singing is a lifestyle that everybody's is different, but you have to know what it is that your instrument needs, what you need to do to function and be very vocal about it because I have an incredible tour manager that sometimes we'll be out there on a tour and we go through the tours before we even go out there because he knows the way I think is I do certain things like if I'm going on tour and it's a long tour, I line up all the weather from each city on the app on my iPhone so that when we leave I just take it off. So I have them all there and I'm like, oh, we only got 3 or 4 more to go, but I'm always at the end of the tour in my mind, so I know I have to pace myself to get through it, number one. And I'm a singer that needs a lot of sleep. I'm a singer that can't eat at night. I'm a singer that can't eat certain things in a day and don't and on a day that I have to sing, I could never drink any white wine, actually no alcohol. But if I do have anything, it'd have to be something red or like, a cognac or something. But that still, I'm not a singer that can drink and sing,
yeah,
and everybody has different things,
yeah,
and so you have to be respectful of those things and put those in your life and make them so second nature that you don't even think about it. So my band, they'll go out after a gig, but they won't even ask me if they know that we have a gig the next day. They won't even ask me, but on the day that we have off, if it's a off day, they'll say, okay, come and hang out with us, because they know I'll do it, because I have a day to, and then I'm quiet during the day. I mean, I have to have all of these things, but most of all, sleep. I have to eat 2 hours before I perform and nothing heavy. It's just all these things that you have to do to just keep maintaining yourself, and everybody is different.
yeah, yeah. Um, so true. I remember my friend, I've said this before, but my friend Rebecca Paris, who was a big
Oh,
woman, and she
yeah, she was
literally,
great.
I was sitting there, she had a meatball sub and a Courvoisier. She was eating, and then she grabbed the mic and got up and sang the crap out of it. And I was like, that would never be me. Never.
Nope, couldn't do it. No,
Yeah.
because I know I'm prone to reflux and all that, and so I
Yeah.
can't have that. So, you have to obey what it is that you need to do.
Yeah. We have my friend Dan Davila posted your video of night music with David Sanborn and Dizzy Gillespie singing "Love for Sale."
Yep, that too. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's cool.
I'll look at that on the way out. We're coming
Yeah.
coming close to 2 hours. it's been so much fun to talk to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this. It's a real easy kind of thing. And I wish you the best in this because it's a really wonderful format and it's very relaxed and, it's just talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's been really fun. Really enjoyed all these conversations and just
How you, I mean, besides doing this, how are you dealing with all of this, you know, staying home and stuff?
well, I started this show very quickly after the whole thing kind of blew up
Hmm.
because I was immediately feeling kind of like a fish out of water because I generally do things that include people, and
Hmm.
I just felt weird, and so I thought, well, this is perfect. I can go on and talk to people. I thought, yeah, a half hour. That didn't even happen at all. Half hour. That didn't happen. And then so all these people started coming on, and um, actually Sina E was the first singer to talk to me because I think I was thinking I was just going to talk myself for a half hour. She came
Hmm.
on and I said, "Hey Sina, why don't so and she's wonderful to talk to. She's such a
Hmm.
great artist as well. But so this has been definitely like a secure focus for me almost, every day. It's like 6 days a week. But
Hmm.
then I did stuff like I picked up my flute again from
Good.
Berkeley, and getting, really like, oh, hey, there's an embouchure. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah. Wow, I used to play flute. Cool.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
I think my husband's doing well, but he's kind of a homebody anyway, except he
Uh-huh.
metal detects. So
Uh-huh.
he was generally before he was metal detecting and then being at
Hmm.
home and doing eBay. So it's not all that different. The different thing is having me home a lot because
Yeah.
I like to go out and hear music a lot.
Yeah. I
So
miss that too.
yeah. And last week I did have a horn player and a singer in my backyard,
Oh,
and we
good.
we just improvised. And and then Saturday I'm going to go to somebody's backyard who's playing. So that feels good, but it's really I mean, everybody knows all this information anyway. It's
Hmm.
a reviewing of yourself because you see how
Yeah.
you're reacting to all this, and it's kind of quiet. I mean, you can talk to people and watch lots of music, but
Hmm.
it's kind of quiet, right? It's just
Yeah, it is. It's actually a good time to really take stock of yourself. And, a lot of things are just changing. And I don't think I've ever had this much time to like really reflect like this.
yeah,
And I actually like it and I actually needed it. I don't need it longer. I wish it would kind of start to end,
yeah, yeah,
but I'll figure out what to do. But one thing that it has done, it has just really fed another part of me that really needed it. And so um, I'm loving that aspect of it. But there are a lot of things changing in the world that I'm glad to see. I'm glad to see these young people out here marching, saying that we're not going back, which I love it. And I'm glad that people are at this COVID in a way. I don't think that this whole situation would have happened had we not had to be home and really, all kind of be doing this thing. So when when George Floyd was killed, um, I think that that really resonated with people because their attention was like there on it, and people can start looking at themselves and making a change because we want a better world for this new generation and we want it better than what we had. So I'm glad that they're out there fighting to make sure it happens
yeah. Me
too.
too.
you know
Without going into what it was, I'm just going to say that I was listening to this video this morning, and where
Mhm.
this man was talking about what he expects the future to be, and it was all it was everything that you would imagine that heaven on earth would be here right now,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
getting rid of. the inequities and things that we have just been taught to accept, growing
Right.
up. And it was just an interesting listen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, we have an opportunity to create a color that we have never seen before. And that's always a wonderful thing, new possibilities, something, that really is inclusive of everyone, and the ear and a heart to listen. So it's never going to be, it won't be fall on deaf ears, that you really know that this COVID thing makes us all the same, and no matter how old you are, how much money you have, or what color, religion, or whatever, COVID does not give a damn. So we're like all like, oh, okay.
oh, we're all,
We're equal.
oh, yeah. And also
Yeah.
the arts the arts, of course,
Yeah.
can carry this through.
Right.
I'm actually coming out with a single from a record that I had been working on, of Inner City Blues Makes Me Want to Holler.
Yeah.
And
Throw
it's just,
both my hands. Yeah.
yeah, man, and it's perfect for right now. And yeah, it's
Good.
we're powerful.
Yes. So to all the artists that are showed up on here, keep doing what you're doing, because everything that we do, it's a reflection of how we feel and how we want others to feel, and it's a powerful thing. Art is a very powerful vibration, and we just want to keep pushing things to change for the better. So these are crazy times, but our voices can be heard in one way or another.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. It's
Uh,
really been a joy. Thank you so much.
all my love to you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a great day in Colorado, and ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of the day. And see you
Yes.
tomorrow. With my guest is Phil Giffen, who's a producer, and also, if you're so inclined, please donate to the California Jazz Federation, because
Good.
it's actually an organization that supports jazz musicians who are in financial need. It's
That's wonderful.
great. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Take care, everybody, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Di.
Have a good one. All right. Bye
Thank
bye.